Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Give Me God of War walkthrough. We're going to be moving back through the Lake of the Nine on this grand bridge to go to the Foothills. And in the Foothills we're going to meet the second of the Dwarven brothers, who's hopefully going to help us with our axe to make it a little stronger. But before we do that, we're going to come up against... I can't remember the name of this enemy. I think they might be Vikings. They're interesting though because they can heal themselves. They're an enemy that just puts their arms out in a cross position and starts healing. It's quite interesting, and also when they die they explode. So that's something worth knowing. I'm going to try and knock them off as best I can. He's doing it there, you see him? Doing his little Jesus impression. There he goes. Very, very powerful maneuver. They can do it as many times as they want as well, I think. So you have to be careful. But knocking people off this bridge is a fucking art form, apparently. So it might be better to just fight them. But additionally, I can't even get knockback damage. Oh, there you go. He got knocked off from that. I think this guy's going to hurt me when he explodes as well, which is depressing. Ooh, that was good damage. Behind, behind. Whoo! There it was. It can't be blocked. Shit. I didn't react. I wondered where I took damage on this fight, and there it was. Shouldn't have done that, guys. That was sloppy. But the reason why this is not a no damage fight is because when you restart this checkpoint, you have to run all the way from Brock's, and I ain't got that in me. Do not like having to run back to anything, so I'll take the damage. Like, that's one of those things where that was 100% me forgetting that they blew up, and I should have rolled instead of blocking. Although, admittedly, I think you should be able to block that because it's a dirty mechanic. Not a big fan of enemies that explode when they die. Always reminds me of the fucking armadillos in Ninja Gaiden 2, where for the life of me I didn't figure out that you just held a block and survived, because in that game, blocking almost got you killed. But a couple more of these yellow dudes with the tassel worm. Kill the yellow dudes and then focus on the tassel worm is my advice. But be conscious of it, because it's somewhere burrowing like a tremor, doing whatever that tassel worms do. He's going to blow up. There you go, remembered that time. I do like these enemies though, because they seem to take damage. And enemies that take damage I like. Ooh, did you see how slow he moved just then? Interesting, he must have got some kind of frost property from this enemy, who was frozen. That was weird. That's my favourite aspect of the Executioner Cleave as well. It goes into those wonderful animations when you kill people with it. And he cuts them in half and cuts off the head and stuff. It's really pretty. Here we go. I'm going to get hit during my combo, probably. Why does it do that, game? What the fuck? So weird. It even says that the moves aim for you better on this difficulty in those notes, which didn't seem like it just then, did it? How the fuck do you miss a move like that? It aims itself. Very strange, as my stomach agrees with me. Where did the tassel worm go? Interesting, maybe it runs into the poison next to those scorn poles. Anyhow, get the experience from opening up that, and then we can push forward. So these poles over here have an area of effect poison, and you have to freeze them to get through it. The moment you land the axe, you can run through the poison, even if it's visibly on the screen. It's really well designed, I like it a lot. And it's something that doesn't turn up too often. It's just a little bit of an environmental diversity, and it's welcome. But when you drop down here, I believe the tassel worm's going to attack. And the tassel worm's going to take refuge in that poison. But instead of... Oh my god, how come I'm poisoned? What? Maybe you do take damage. Fuck. I'll have to watch that back. That's weird. I don't know why I was poisoned then, guys. I have no idea, but apparently I was poisoned. That sucks. Here he comes. So do you see the boy stun him when he was coming towards me just then? And then he went for the combo against the kid. Now we freeze him with the axe, and then we hit him with the stun. And then we hit him with the stun. And then you get out of there, get the axe back, stun him with the boy, stun him again with the axe, and then hit him with the stun. And they can't move if you do that correctly. That's why that enemy's never really a problem once you understand it. I can't believe I got poisoned. I'm pissed at that. Damn. I'm giving you strategies that are apparently not working. But learn from my mistake, guys. Whatever I did wrong just then, don't do it. And if it was just one of those weird things... Because weird stuff happens in this game when you restart checkpoint as well. There's been times when I've restarted checkpoint, it's given me full life. And there's been times when I've restarted checkpoint and it's given me no life. And I don't know what that's about, but... Maybe I restarted checkpoint just then and it poisoned me. I don't know. Weird. One of those mysteries, right? And I've popped a climbing section in here. Traditionally, I'm removing as many climbing sections as I can, Every so often, though, they will slip by. And I'm doing it because you climb so much in this game, and the climbing is willfully uninteresting because they've ruined it, in my opinion. For some reason, they want climbing to be slow now, and the only reason I can think of it is it has to do with the talking between the kids. Oh, by the way, guys, this is a really hard fight coming up. This is not conventionally difficult, but it's difficult due to circumstance. There is a ton of these shitbangers throwing projectiles, and there's a bunch of tassel worms. So, I can't even begin to tell you how frustrating this fight is to do. So, that's why my strategy is going to be hyper-aggressive, if not suicidal. So, a position of strength is up here. When you stand up here, for some reason, the tassel worms have a tough time coming to you, and when they do, you can isolate them because the other enemies have a tough time throwing garbage at you, because they can't seem to land the shot, luckily. However, anywhere else, they seem to be really strong at throwing the projectiles. And what we're going to do is we're going to isolate each enemy individually, killing them with axe throws, and then we're going to finish off the tassel worm. At the very beginning, if I'd have realised the guy was up there on that spawn point, I could have hit him and potentially saved myself the damage, because I'm not going to take any damage for the rest of this fight. However, I was so eager to kill those first guys that I didn't really mind taking that hit. And it's one of those strategies that can be really useful sometimes. Sometimes to get rid of the biggest threat, you have to trade a little bit. And especially when you're in Alfheim and you come up against those enemies that spawn more enemies, if you have to take 1 or 2 hits to get rid of him, do it, because it's worth it. Of course, if you're going for no damage, just restart and just do it until you don't get tagged. And it takes generally a pretty long time sometimes when you're on an awkward fight, but it's not difficult. Like, this is not a hard fight, but it's really challenging just because of the projectile spam. This enemy that throws those grenades is so accurate at places they shouldn't be that you can get hit in areas that in no video game should you ever get hit. And it leads to moments of just bizarre damage taking. And then this tassel worm's being a dickhead and being super quick now, so I can't freeze him with the axe. The reason you freeze him with the axe, guys, is because if he's not frosted, he'll just respond with that explosion, and you'll be able to do no damage and you'll just get injured. So freezing him is really important. But he's been a genius now, and I'm not having any success. But as I've mentioned, this position's very powerful, because those knobheads can't throw their dirty mucus grenades or whatever they are. And they will never come up here either, because their pathfinding doesn't allow them. And if they do come up here, I apologise about that, but it's never happened to me, and I've used this strategy a few times now. But there's the parry, that gets him out of the ground. Trying to finish him off, but I couldn't. Do I have the second parry? That's what I should have done. I should have launched him. Launched him into 2 squares, into 2 R1s, into a square, into R2s. Yeah, look at this knobhead. What a bitch. Just fucking die. And here is the... watch how fast these guys die, though, when they level up. He's level 4 and purple, and he still dies really quickly, which is great. He should die from 1 cleave, in my opinion. That should be the balance there. You should run around that entire square cleaving them and getting iframes. But guess what? You're vulnerable coming out of the cleave, and they can time it perfectly to hit you with a grenade. It happened to me when I was trying to do that encounter. So yeah, I find that fight to be very taxing for all the wrong reasons, but we did it. And now we can explore the foothills. So, you're going to come through this area a couple times, and it's worth talking about too. Do you see that rock dude just over there? That is a Grendel.
No.
Later on in the game, when you're in Tia's vault, that's going to come alive, 2 of them, and they're going to be a boss. The game has these statues everywhere, and I don't know if once you beat the final boss and you move around the world, if those statues start coming to life, but I would wager that they probably do, because what would be the point, right, in them being everywhere? And I noticed them immediately. So the first thing I said when I spotted them is, you know, later on that's probably going to come alive, and I'm very curious to see what you get when you kill them, because they're everywhere. It's interesting. It's one of those details that this game has. It's got a lot of great details. But once again, folks, if you see any buckets hanging around from the trees and such, you want to break them because they do give you hack silver. They can sometimes give you crafting components. They can give you good stuff. And the more stuff you have, the better it's going to be when you visit the blacksmiths and you power yourself up. I believe up here, this leads to a bunch of chests we can't quite get yet because we don't have the blades. So 2 of these are not going to be accessible. I don't think. Also, you don't have the electricity to break the red crystals either, so don't sweat it too much, folks. You can always come back for that. And a lot of the times, the chests don't even give you that much of, the stuff you want. They tend to give you the stuff you don't want, which is frustrating. But what can you do? Here is the strategy to the next to the elevator to get that chest. You have to freeze it from down below, run around and pick it up. Pretty simple stuff. And then there's one on the right, which is a Narnia chest, which I will be ignoring. To a lot of people's dismay, I would reckon. Because it's quite interesting, too, that people get really... I'm not going to say triggered, but maybe it's an anxious thing. Like, I think it trips people's anxiety when they see such low life. Because people don't understand why you wouldn't want to get more life. It's one of those things that's hardwired into a lot of players. To them, it boggles the mind. Like, to me, it boggles the mind why you would want more life, because I'm weird and I play games in a really stupid way. But the amount of comments I get on a lot of the stuff I've done, especially Bloodborne, on my Bloodborne playthroughs and walkthroughs and things, the amount of people who just couldn't understand why you would put points and levels into anything but your HP was astronomical. Because I think people associate those games with just massively gouging HP. In people's minds, every level early on goes into HP so that they can take more hits without dying. But I'm the type of player that doesn't mind dying, and I die a lot, and it doesn't bother me. So in my mind, I always look at it kind of from the perspective of, if I don't get hit, it won't matter how much life I've got. But I think those people who to them, not upgrading life is crazy. Why would you do it? Like, they would probably say not upgrading HP is bad play. That's what they would call it. They would 100% call it that, because to them it is. Because to them, HP is so invaluable. And you can always see it, like even watching our good old friend Darkside Phil on his redemption run of Bloodborne, which I think the only thing he's redeemed is his ability to convince people he's not grinding when he is. And it's funny watching him because he always puts points into HP. And in Bloodborne, the counter damage is so hard in that game and hits so high that it doesn't really matter. The first thing you learn in Bloodborne is that HP doesn't fucking matter, because you die so fast in that game. It will help you take hits, but they're hits that you should have never taken in the first place. And additionally, on top of that, like, the second thing you learn in Bloodborne is that stamina doesn't matter, because you have so much of it to begin with. Having more of it isn't really necessary. It can give you powerful things to do, and it can be fun, but you don't have to do it. But it's one of those things where people don't really care if you don't stack any endurance. People are just like, oh, you're fine, you'll be okay. But the moment you don't stack HP, everybody loses their minds. And I find it really fascinating. Because I never level up HP in Bloodborne. It doesn't really bother me. Like, the only times I've done it is to do it, just to see, the advantages and see what it does. And it can be useful for a lot of things, there's no doubt. As she gets wrecked from the loop, love it. Like, one of the things HP is good for is practicing bosses that you're going to be doing at level 4. Because at level 4, you can't really take any hits, so you can't practice and you're always resetting. But if you go in there with, like, 99 vitality, you can take a whole bunch of hits, and you wear, the most resistant armor and stuff. You can take a bunch of sloppy hits and stay in there, and you can heal a bunch and stay in there even longer, and it lets you practice without having to run back a lot. And there's some people that don't mind the runbacks, but I do. Runbacks are the thing that I think ruin video games. So just then, I didn't get poisoned, did I? I was perfectly fine to run through the poison. I think I got robbed. For some reason, I was randomly poisoned. Anyhow, guys. Yeah, HP is an interesting statistic. Some people think you have to have it, other people don't. Thank you for watching. You take care now.